I still remember the first time I saw that black cartridge label staring back at me. The unmistakable scarred face of Freddy Krueger glaring back at you. The infamous LJN rainbow logo stamped in the corner like a warning label. It was 1990, the height of the NES era, and horror movies had clawed their way into the mainstream. Freddy was on Halloween masks and MTV bumpers, and now, somehow, he was on a Nintendo cartridge. But what most players didn't realize when they blew into that cartridge and pressed start is that the game they played wasn't the game that was supposed to exist. Because once upon a time, A Nightmare on Elm Street on NES was designed to be something far darker, something Nintendo wasn't ready to unleash. According to early design notes, interviews, and even promotional blurbs in magazines, the original plan wasn't for you to run from Freddy. It was for you to be Freddy. That's right. You were going to hunt down the terrified teenagers of Elm Street yourself. And for reasons that would ripple through the entire game's history, that concept was abruptly scrapped. And today we'll finally answer that question of who won the NES Horror Showdown, Freddy or Jason. Today in this Halloween special, we're digging into one of the strangest, most controversial secrets in NES history, a licensed horror game that could have changed everything if Nintendo hadn't slammed the brakes. Let's get started. The late 80s were a weird time for horror and video games. Slasher icons like Jason and Michael Myers were household names, but Nintendo still had one foot firmly in the family-friendly camp. The company's content guidelines were notoriously strict. No blood, no religious imagery, and absolutely no glorifying violence. And even Castlevania had to scrub religious crosses and blood references before making it stateside. And remember back in our DuckTales NES Secrets and History video, there was even a beta version of DuckTales that had to remove crosses from coffins in the Transylvania level and replace with the letters RIP. Yet at the same time, licensing deals were booming. LJN, the toy company turned publisher, was scooping up every big name it could get. And by 1989, they landed one of the biggest, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger wasn't just another villain. He was an icon of terror, a boogeyman with charisma. And the idea of playing a Nightmare game on your NES felt like the ultimate crossover. The game was developed by Rare, the same studio that would later create Battletoads, Donkey Kong Country, and GoldenEye 007 on the 64. But back in 1989, they were still a small UK studio taking on contract work for Western publishers. Rare was known for pushing the NES hardware and adding creative flourishes to otherwise limited games. Early design documents, now referenced in fan archives and interviews, suggest their original pitch for Nightmare was bold. Players would assume the role of Freddy Krueger himself, stalking the streets and killing Elm Street teens one by one. And I don't think there's any way that Nintendo can deny that playing as Freddy was the original intent. Just check out this 1988 LJN NES insert poster. It definitively states that you are Freddy Krueger, and you will use all of your evil powers and special abilities to track down and destroy your pursuers before they bury your bones. And changes appear to be happening in this September-October 1989 edition of Nintendo Power, which actually looks like a great title screen of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and there actually is Freddy's glove. But it looks as though by this point that you are in control of the teenagers. Horror fans had come to expect blood, gore, and nightmare fuel. Nintendo expected family entertainment, and so Rare was forced to pivot. The game we ultimately got flips the concept completely. Instead of playing as Freddy, you play as a group of anonymous teenagers trying to collect Freddy's scattered bones and bury them in the Elm Street High School furnace. It's a clever inversion, one that still thematically ties back to the films. And every time I see one of these bones that you have to collect, it makes me feel like I'm playing Operation with that little wrench, more than collecting bones. But the tone is far less aggressive. Let's start right where the nightmares begin, the title screen. While Freddy looms against the background, take a closer look. Something's wrong. Freddy's actually not wearing his famous bladed glove. Instead, the metal blades project directly from his fingers, almost like Wolverine. But this title screen image actually makes total sense when you dig a little deeper. Now, I always remembered seeing the artwork for the sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street looking like this, where there was a gold background with Freddy's glove and him peeking from the side. But what's often considered the black sheep of the franchise, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 appears to be the inspiration for the title screen artwork. The movie actually has elements of blades projecting from Freddy's own fingers, but the nail in the coffin is the game was created by Rare, which is a UK-based company, and the UK poster for Freddy's Revenge is unmistakably the inspiration for the NES game title screen. While the mechanics were simple, jump, punch, collect bones, the most interesting system Rare implemented was the dream mechanic. Stay idle too long or take too much damage and you drift into the dream world, where enemies are tougher and Freddy appears more often. While asleep, you can harness powerful dream abilities that let you attack from a distance or perform enhanced moves, while just keeping your player still will actually drain your sleep meter quicker. To truly manage the sleep cycle, the game gives you two vital power-ups, coffee and the radio/boombox. Obviously, coffee refills your sleep meter, keeping you awake in the real world, just like the teenagers would do in the movies. But the radio, that's your lifeline. When used, it instantly jolts you awake from the dream world, pulling you back into reality. It's a clever nod to the movies, where staying awake meant staying alive. Once you've collected special icons, you unlock new forms inspired directly by A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the Dream Warriors. Each character represents a dream-powered alter ego, echoing the film's theme of fighting back in the dream world. You can swap between them with the select button once unlocked. There's the Acrobat, the Necromancer wielding long-range magic attacks that tear through enemies, and the Shadow Warrior, my personal favorite, capable of a devastating flying kick that slices through Freddy's minions with precision and style. The duality between the waking world and the dream realm gave the game a unique flavor, and while it was a far cry from the original villain simulator idea, it was still one of the more ambitious horror titles on the NES. Composed by David Wise, the chiptune soundtrack has an eerie, off-kilter quality. The background art, especially in the dream world, is haunting in a way few NES games managed. And there's something genuinely unsettling about Freddy's sudden appearances, even if they're more annoying than scary by today's standards. The journey through Elm Street takes you across multiple environments, each one pulling you deeper into Freddy's world. You'll traverse several houses on Elm Street, even Freddy's home, each crawling with enemies, bones, and hidden keys. You'll navigate through trash and old cars in the local junkyard, then the cemetery, where even the ground seems alive, and finally the high school, where it all ends in the boiler room, Freddy's signature lair. Here's one of the most amazing facts about A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's one of the few NES games to support 4 players simultaneously. Using the NES 4-score or NES Satellite, up to 4 people could join the fight, each controlling their own teenage hero. And I'll make sure to use my custom Jason NES controller just to tick Freddy off. 4 players on screen, punching zombies, dodging bats, and collecting Freddy's bones in real time. For 1990, that was an incredible technical feat, and while chaotic, it added an arcade-like energy rarely seen on the NES. So let's settle it once and for all. Who won the NES Horror Showdown? Freddy or Jason? Friday the 13th was released first in 1989. It sold well, but was widely criticized for confusing objectives and repetitive gameplay. Sales-wise, Jason took the lead. Friday the 13th sold around 250,000 copies, while Freddy pulled in closer to 200,000. So who's the real winner? Jason may have sold more, but Freddy, he dreamed bigger. Like so many LJN titles, A Nightmare on Elm Street was dismissed in its day, another movie cash-in. But decades later, fans see it differently. It's ambitious, atmospheric, and surprisingly innovative. It's a relic of an era when movie magic met 8-bit limitation, and somehow still worked. Looking back now more than 30 years later, A Nightmare on Elm Street on the NES is more than just another clunky licensed platformer. It's a time capsule, a glimpse into a moment when video games were still figuring out how far they could push boundaries. It's also a fascinating what-if in gaming history. What if Nintendo had said yes? What if Rare had released a game where you played as Freddy Krueger, terrorizing a pixelated Elm Street? So this Halloween, if you're brave enough, dust off that old cartridge, plug in your NES, and step back into 1990. A time when horror was king, when monsters ruled the rental shelves, and when one game nearly let you become the monster yourself. A nightmare that never quite escaped the dream world. And if this is your first time here at the channel, my name is Tyler, and if you love gaming from all generations like we do here at G3, then consider hitting that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. And a huge shout out and thank you to Megadan29 for providing all of the game capture footage for us today. And of course, special shout outs to Elevand and RichieR6610 for both finding Mullet Boy at almost exactly the same time in our last He-Man NES Secrets in History video. Till next time guys, G3 out.